the presentation today is focused on thinking about emails, your emails as campaigns and then as an overall whole, so that you're testing and learning as you go, and that you can keep building on your knowledge and on your results, because your business and your customer base and how they buy and when they buy are going to be different from other people. So you really want to be taking some of these points, and I hope you'll get some ideas and some inspiration that then you can go and say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and try that. But that, again, it's something that will build over time. So today we're going to talk about testing, segmentation, personalization, landing pages, ROI, touch a few thoughts on campaign management, and then I have some additional link resources that you can follow up on and get some more detail and examples. So why testing? Anytime I talk about email marketing, I always talk about testing, and you'll always hear anyone from the email or direct marketing space talk about testing, and that's really because you want to be increasing the response to your campaign. And because, as I said up front, one size fits all does not apply. So your business is unique, your customer base is unique. And what might work in one instance may not work in another, and you probably all have different groups of customers too, which we'll talk about as well. Excuse me. So there are lots of things that you can be testing. Obviously, people always want to know when's the best time to be sending email. What are the key elements to be testing? In general, with email, there are 4 things that will make a difference to a single campaign. So number 1 is going to be your subject line, because that's what's going to get people to open your message in the first place. Number 2 is going to be the offer. So what's the product, what's the price point, or what's the additional offer? Is it a limited time promotion? Definitely when you're framing your offer, you want to have an expiry date, and you want to create a sense of urgency. I know that when I was at a software company, and we did a lot of tests on different software offers, and for that company, what worked really well was to offer a limited time discount plus an extra premium by ordering at a certain time. So depending, you may come up with different types of offers, and it doesn't always have to be a price discount. Obviously, and you've probably all tried this too, is offering signed books versus non. Is there an extra chapter? Can you get like an autograph from the author? Can you get a discount to go and see them at an event, etc.? But definitely an offer is a key thing to test. And then number 3 would be the actual list that you're sending to, because that makes a big difference. Offer, obviously, is matching up the right offer to the right list. And that can make a difference, too, in your subject line. So if you know that you have a particular publication or a book that's going to appeal to different types of audiences, maybe you want to vary your subject line and see what works with those different groups. So if someone is, I'm just trying to think, sorry, I'm trying to think off the top of my head a good example, but for example, if let's say you have an offer who's kind of like a cross-genre author, but you have an idea based on either preferences that people have provided or based on their past purchase history. If you know that they like science fiction, then maybe your subject line references something like that. Or if you know that they buy anything from this author, period, then make sure that the author name is going to be more prominent in the subject line. And then number 4, the fourth thing that actually impacts email campaign response is the creative itself. So you want to have, very clean, clear creative, generally subject lines that are very specific and start to anticipate what that call to action might be. So if it's, to register for a webinar, or if it's to sign up for a reading, or to get a discount, or get their name on a pre-sale list, try putting that in the subject line first. Things that don't work are getting, if you're getting too cute, or if it's misleading, because then you have a disconnect between the subject line and what people are anticipating is going to be in the email versus what's in the email itself. Okay, so when you're testing, you want to only be testing one thing at a time, so that everything else will stay the same. So you can set up a grid and have your basic message. That's the one that you'll use as your baseline, or it's often called a control. So, so this is the message that is either the same standard one you've used before, and you want to set up some tests to see if you're going to create a lift in response or increase your response. And so then you would set up your test so that you're testing one element at a time against that control. So that could be your subject line, it could be an image, it could be a specific link, it could be the call to action button, it could be, vast differences in copy, or maybe it's long versus short, etc. And you can get with web pages, like with landing pages, later on, if you're using, usually it's a little it's a lot more complicated to set up. So you can get into some multivariate testing, which uses an algorithm to figure out what the different tests might be based on what the responses might be. Now, I'm not a statistician, and so maybe someone out there as a statistician has a better idea how it all works. But with that, there are services that can help you to do that. So depending on the scale of what you're trying to do and your budget. And obviously, you can track campaigns with Excel, but if you're looking to test your list, and you want to track against your list who's been getting what messages. So either by appending codes to your database, or even just in Excel, create a column where you're going to track which version of an email that you sent them. Or if you need to split your list, and you're just going to say split it into 4, then just create a column and go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then copy paste that through the list. Or if you're really good at Excel, you can use a formula and go odd even or something like that and start to split it out. But it's really good to keep track of who responded to what, because then you can start to get an idea of some of the other attributes of those responders and what might make a difference in a future campaign. So if you find that you've got a group that have some similar characteristics of, liking science nonfiction, then you can see if they have different types, like if they are responding to similar types of creative, like are they more likely to go for very visual images or like image heavy creative, or is it more that the words, or are they price sensitive or not? What kinds of offers appeal to those different groups? And in order to help you to track that, because often you may be going to the same landing page, right? Like you may be having the same URL that you want people to end up on. Google has a couple, free and easy tools to do that. Everybody, even very large companies, use Google Analytics because there's some, really good basic data that you get out of there. And if you haven't come across URL Builder, it's a really simple way to create a custom URL for yourself so that it will tell you what the sort, like where the actual URL is going to. It's the campaign that you're tracking, and then what type of a campaign is it. And if there are any specific words for you that you're using, or like letter number combinations to track which version of the email you're sending out. And then it'll generate a really long email URL. So if you're sending it directly, it doesn't always work to use a URL shortener if you're then also going to be sending through an email service provider application. You might want to test it because what happens is that you're having to, the short URL will go out to a Google server that will then kick back what the final URL is. But if on top of that you're adding on a custom URL from your email service provider in order to track your campaign, this might or might not be helpful. So, but it's a useful tool in any circumstance. If you need to, especially if you need to publish a URL. So if you have an ad campaign or you're sending something out by print, you could create a custom URL, and then you'll be able to track where the source of that was, especially if you segment that list or if you have different offers that you're testing and you want to track that it's still going to the same landing page for people to purchase. So I started to talk a little bit about segmentation. And segmentation is really just slicing and dicing your customer base according to different attributes that are going to make a difference. And so it's to create a better user experience, but ultimately, of course, it's really to increase our response rate. I mean, that's what we're hoping for. Absolutely, creating a better user experience is going to, pay dividends. But today we're really talking about wanting to increase conversion, and so segmentation can be used to really customize or personalize your offers. So it may be that it's a different type of offer, or maybe it's the way that you present the offer that you want to be able to change. And then, again, this depends on your business and how you set things up. The metrics that might make a difference are whether or not this is a brand new customer. If you don't have a welcome program, that's something that's really worth testing to see if it makes a difference. Having something special as a follow-up, for the first 6 months when people join your mailing list. And it could be something really simple that says, hey, welcome, here's a little bit about us, here are some of the brand new titles that we have. So it could be something really simple like that, or you could get, obviously get much more aggressive in saying, hey, if you like this, maybe you like this. So starting to get into more recommendations, even if they're manual, they can make a difference. And probably, if it's not you, then your purchasers probably have an idea of what types of titles that one person bought that they might like next. And if you're going to set up a welcome program, one way to get to know whether or not it's making a difference is keep aside a set of customers that you don't send that welcome message to, and then track how things go. Do they respond any differently to your offers or to your campaigns or anything else that you're doing? some very obvious ways that you can segment is if you have topic preferences, and that might be something that you've asked overtly when they first sign up or not, or it could be based on their purchase behavior. Did they, buy in the last month? It's an old maxim in direct that, people who recently purchased are some of your best prospects for purchasing again. So you might want to do some segmentation and testing that way. Take anyone who's purchased from you in the last 3 to 6 months and hit them up with another similar offer. And if you have a loyalty program, then absolutely treat them special and keep treating them special because they're going to be your most profitable customers. I don't know any loyalty program that, I haven't heard of one. If you have heard of a loyalty program that actually has worse customers, let me know. But usually that's an investment that you're making in people respond to, whether that's personalized service or special offers or even just advanced access. Anything little special that you can do. People always like to feel like they're your favorite. One way to think about it. And if you're going to start segmenting, if you can, keep measuring results over time and measure against your control and have a group that is a random group who don't end up in any of those segments, and see if they respond any differently, so that you have, so if you have a group that's just your random and they're getting like a general offer versus you'll have all your different segments, or test groups that have, personalized or customized offers. I need to speed up a little bit. But so this chart here just shows some potential opportunities for segmentation or personalization based on how easy it is to implement and then how effective it is. So, and this is based on a survey put out by Marketing Sherpa in 2011. So it's probably about a year and a half old, but I expect things haven't changed a whole lot. So in this case, we're finding a lot of people said that, yes, they tried returning versus new visitors, and while it was easy to implement, it only made a slight difference to effectiveness. But depending on, what your metrics and how much investment you need to actually make, even just that little increase in response rate can make a big difference to your bottom line. Source of traffic continually makes a difference. So tracking where your names came from is a really good idea. Okay, so personalization. Often people think of personalization as being the dear name, right? So it's Dear Jordan, thank you and welcome, etc. But it can be a whole lot more than that. You can be personalizing based on the region that people are from, if they've given you any stated preferences, or based on their past history. And if you do want to be, testing all these different things, and maybe there are, because some things will make a difference and some won't, and that really does depend on your business. But time and time again, using the personalization has proven to increase results. So it may be just a slight lift, but by combining all these little things, what might have been 1% here and 1% there, or 0.5%, it can start adding up to like 5, 10% lift in response rate. And definitely with personalization, I've seen stats where where it's increased response anywhere from 10 to 30% to over 100. So highly recommend it. So these are just a couple little simple examples that I found. So this one this is not directly applicable to publishing, but we'll see if we can come up with something that might be similar. But personalizing based on past behavior. And in this example, a customer is a client of Dropbox, which is a file sharing service, and had logged into their account from multiple types of devices. So this is just a helpful email that says, hey, did you know that you can have you can access your files from one device to another, and you don't even have to log on or off, etc., and just the benefits. So in your case, if someone had, let's see, so you might do this based on, whether people had shown up at multiple or different types of events. So, for example, if they had been, if you have a login and you see that they had been browsing on a page for one particular author or a particular topic, you might follow up. You always have to be aware of the big brother factor. Or it could be based on past purchase history, or if you know that they come from an organization versus they're shipping to home, or so there are probably some ideas that you have. Here's another example that might or might not apply if you're doing e-commerce, which is just a little follow-up to let people know that, hey, you didn't purchase, but we're running out of that item. So if you know someone's come in, they visited, and they either put something in their shopping cart or not, then you might want to do a little follow-up that says, hey, this item's almost out of stock, assuming that it is, or this author is going to be in your location. So if you had a customer who had purchased from you books and you knew that this author was going to go on a tour, or maybe even they're going to do an online, you guys have probably done this too, is you've got them doing an online chat, or they're going to be on the road, and letting people know, depending on the region that they're in, that they can connect with them that way. Okay, so I'm going to jump into landing pages. And the key with landing pages is not to have a different experience going from your email to that page. And so you want to have a very seamless experience. You want it to look the same, so have some of the same, use the same colors and language and layout, but don't send them to your home page because they'll get distracted. So the key to get people to actually make a purchase is to remove all distractions and clutter from the page that you're sending them to. So create a custom page. This also lets you do some testing. So so you could split up your list and do some offer testing, or if you have a database of business versus consumer purchasers, or institutional purchasers versus just single one-offs, you might send them to 2 different landing pages for bulk purchase versus single purchase, and focus that experience very differently, and see if that improves your conversion rate. And so this is an example where it's actually coming from a search ad, and the headline on the Google ad was looking for the best Bluetooth earbuds, and then the landing page is sent them to, on the left, repeats top-rated Bluetooth earbuds, but then the second one introduces a different name. It has the actual product name, and so you can see where there can be a disconnect. Anytime you interrupt that thought flow, people start to second-guess things and think, they start to think and go, oh, do I really want this? Or because they've been knocked out of that flow, they'll get distracted by other things. It could be the cat, it could be listening to some colleagues telling a story in the next cube, etc. So you don't want that flow to be interrupted. So this is another example where they're selling RVs and trying to get people to book online. And so when you're looking at how to test your landing page, there's so many different things that you could test. You could be testing, headings, different shots, the actual call to action, the buttons, etc. So, and I just wanted to show an example of all the different things and how much there is to think about. Oh, and I apologize for this little out there. I'll have to fix that when I do the before I send the slides out. So in this case, all the different things that they're thinking about is just how easy is this little form to read? And again, it's all about having an experience that's really seamless, that doesn't raise a bunch of questions, and doesn't get people thinking, oh, is this really what I want, or more thinking about what the downsides might be. So here in this form, you can see that they've got pickup here, but they've got it before the location. So it would have been nicer to have, pickup and then have the form field be right to the right. And then, whoops, sorry. And then again, for the drop-off, everything flows from one to the other, so it's very hard for the eye to see what step is next and understanding, oh, so this is pickup and then this is drop-off. So there could have been just a little bit of space there. So there are all these little things that can really make a difference, and as I said, all these little things that make only an incremental difference added up can make a real impact. And that example is from widerfunnel.com. They have lots of resources. If you get a chance to jump on one of their webinars, they're fantastic. Just some of the tips that you can pick up, and then they have this great model for thinking about your landing page and the elements on it. So that you want to create urgency, you want to reduce any elements that are going to create anxiety or distraction. So anxiety, to alleviate that, you would have, for example, a little trust symbol or a 100% guarantee. And then you want to have things that will, increase relevance and clarity. So having really simple words, really easy to view, call to action, very specific. And this chart is from the same landing page survey that was done in 2000. Like I said, it was conducted in 2010. But I was looking at a previous report, and so things don't vary too much. But what's going to make a difference? You can see from the responses what kinds of things might make a difference for you. So if you're doing lead generation, so if you have a bigger ticket product, or you're looking for institutional buys, new institutional customers, then maybe you're running a lead gen campaign. So what kinds of things are going to make a difference? So this just gives you a little idea. And this is from an excerpt from this whole report. So if you wanted to go and download that and get some more tips off there, that link will be in this deck. There's tons out there that's just on forms and form layout, because every single little thing can make a difference. Okay, so when you're measuring ROI, and we all have different ways that we do this depending on what's most important to you, but really what you want to do is be able to measure right through to that purchase, because otherwise you don't know what's really making a difference. You might have an increase in click-throughs in one place, but the actual conversion rate in the end proves that, hey, this didn't do as well. Even though we had tons of clicks, this campaign where we sent we sent this creative or we sent this offer, while it had fewer click-throughs, it actually had a higher purchase rate and so an increased return on investment. One of the challenges I know when, well, for all kinds of businesses, is trying to track sales when you're not the direct seller. So these are a couple ideas. There are probably lots that other people on this call have tried, and maybe you can add those suggestions into the questions. But you could try getting a free X with proof of purchase. So maybe that's an extra chapter, or maybe that's you could partner up with another company that would offer. I was going to say a free pen, but that might be a lame offer. You might not want to do that. And I know there are lots of publishers who've been doing experiments with offering electronic versions versus shipping the print version. So you could try stuff like that. But just again, this is just getting back to trying to track, what's working and what's not. It's just to get an indicator, and it won't be perfect. But another way could be to insert a survey and ask people to fill it in. People love giving their opinion. And so if you put some kind of a code on there, or you have a specific URL for the survey so you can track it against which version that might have been. Of the offer. So, or you could do the same thing on social media. So if someone's responding to an offer, and you could have them, quote different codes or different sayings or something when they're following you. So they post a message to you, and you could try a check that way. It's not easy. I completely understand. So this is a really simple ROI chart that I put together just in case this is something that some people haven't looked at. I'm sure there are lots of you who have much more sophisticated charts that you've got. But now and then run into people who don't understand the concept. So just want to make sure that it's really clear. So our return on ROI equals return on investment. So that is taking a look at the revenue minus the cost in order to send that campaign out. And depending on your business, you might track your costs as being only the cost to send that campaign out, so the creative costs. And in this example, those creative costs are really low. But depending on what kind of services you have in-house, maybe they're negligible. Or you may, in your business, you may need to be tracking those costs right down to the cost of goods that were shipped out. So in all cases then, at the end of the campaign, you're taking a look at revenue minus cost divided by cost, and that gives you your percentage. And it's really nice to have a whole list of campaigns where you can compare, and then you go, oh, geez, we got that response rate, but look at how much we made off of it. Or, oh, look at our cost per response. I wonder if there's a way that we can get that down. So you can see when you start playing with those numbers, it can make a difference. So I think I talked about, wanting to track your campaigns and so that you can see things over time. And so it can take a bunch of planning. So if you want and depending on the business that you're in, maybe you're very, very disciplined and you have your annual plans marked out, or you have major elements of your plan marked out. Well, are there places where you can be inserting some specific types of tests, or do you want to be understanding your customer base better and seeing what they respond to, or how you can grow that list? So tracking by those segments and planning that out so that you can see by segment what seems to be working. I do encourage that. I've been lots of times in the environment of we just got to go, get it out. So I totally understand that, and so the best thing you can do though is to set aside, maybe it's a couple days in the summer where you can just take a look at all of your past campaigns and start to plug them in, and just do some comparisons and see what you can manage. I threw in data management because it's always a challenge, and it's always a time versus return decision as to how much you'll track against each specific name, and then how much data are you actually able to get. But again, if you can track down by name and then have your data set up so that you can actually do queries on to compare the sources for your list. So where do people opt in from? And of course, you're having to manage your permissions. We talked in the previous webinar about privacy and the new privacy legislation, which now won't be in effect until sometime next year. Okay, so that's a big topic, so I'm going to jump over it. But again, and just wrap by saying that, again, analyzing results over time can really make a difference and helps you to set trends and provide some great fodder for quarterly and annual reports. So I provided some examples here and links of just more sources where you might go to. Marketing Procs is fantastic, and they have if you're not on their mailing list, they have courses, they have case studies, they have webinars, they have events, and they have a pro version that's completely worth it. It is to me anyway, because they're such a great resource for information. I have totally found that it's worth it signing up for their annual membership. Copy Blogger started off as really talking about blogging, but they got into all kinds of other topics, including email marketing and landing pages, and then a fair amount of search engine optimization. And then so there are a few other links here. Web Trends Guide to Landing Pages. They have a nice little report you can download. HubSpot and Marketo are two companies that provide marketing automation platforms, and I know Marketo just came out with a small business offering, so if you're for smaller budgets, you might want to check them out. But they both provide massive amounts of amazing material, so I highly recommend signing up for their mailing list. I'm a bit of an email junkie, but that's okay. But yeah, they have tons of resources on their websites, and the Marketo link on this deck actually goes to their masses of worksheets on everything from social media to optimization and campaign management, etc. And then Unbounce is a site that focuses on getting people to stick to your pages and convert. And Marketing Experiments is also a site that has a lot of information about optimization of pages. And every now and then they'll offer a webinar too that I highly recommend. And there's my contact info if you want to connect, happy to do so.